there's been lots of comment that perhaps it would last a long time.
Bobbie Gentry was one of the hottest stars in music during the late 60s, but by the 80s, she had just about disappeared from the public eye, and the reclusive star has stayed hidden for the past 40 years. Her whole life has been fascinating, and she's left a pretty remarkable legacy in the world of country music, even if her whereabouts for the last 4 decades have been shrouded in serious mystery. So where is Bobbie now? And why does she walk away from her successful career in the spotlight? Bobbie's retired now, but she skyrocketed to fame in 1967 with Ode to Billie Joe. The record spent a full 4 weeks at #1 on the US charts and even won several Grammy Awards. But Bobbie was no one-hit wonder. She sustained success with other popular songs including I'll Never Fall in Love Again and Fancy. Bobbie also had some massively popular Glenn Campbell duets like Little Green Apples and All I Have to Do Is Dream. It was obvious that she was destined to be a star. Bobbie was born Roberta Lee Streeter in July 1942 in Mississippi, and she achieved TV stardom in the UK in 1968. She was asked to host a variety show on BBC Two, which made her the first female songwriter to ever get to host a series. Only a few years later, in 1971, she was releasing her final studio album titled Patchwork. The album was the first time Bobbie got a production credit, something that artists didn't traditionally get at the time, even if they helped produce the music. Patchwork featured the song Your Number One Fan, which seemed to be Bobbie trying to say that not all fans are created equal, and some of her crazier ones might have even been dangerous. The album's final track, Looking In, seemed to have Bobbie singing about herself and where she was at in the world of entertainment. She's saying that she was packing up and checking out because she just couldn't bring herself to compromise. Bobbie's fans have long believed that this was Bobbie's way of telling them that she was leaving her life as a recording artist behind for Las Vegas. Bobbie began focusing all her time on her shows in Las Vegas, and just like a Vegas hotel going through a makeover, she changed her look dramatically overnight. She traded in her leather fringes for something that looked a little more appropriate for Sin City. During her Vegas show, Bobbie dedicated a section to Elvis and put on a stunning tribute to the king. She would wear a karate-style bell-bottom jumpsuit with a jeweled pop collar. She would also take a scarf from around her neck that had some of her sweat and hand it to an adoring audience member, just like Elvis. Her show was a classic Vegas extravaganza with hunky dancers and big numbers featuring elaborate costumes and set pieces. There was also a Mardi Gras show with 6 floats built on golf carts moving around the stage. But every night, no matter what, she had to sing Ode to Billie Joe. Bobbie couldn't escape the massive success of the song that made her famous. In 1976, a movie titled Ode to Billie Joe, based on her song, was released. She recorded an album a year afterward, but sadly the project was shelved and never released. Bobbie's personal life also thrived. She was married a whopping 3 times. Her first husband was famed casino mogul Bill Harrah, who she married for just 1 year in 1969. The marriage was kind of scandalous since she was only 27 and he was almost 60 years old. Bobbie would go on to marry Thomas R. Toutant in 1967. This marriage was twice as successful, meaning it lasted 2 whole years. The same year she split with Thomas in 1978, Bobbie hooked up with comedian Jim Stafford, who she would then marry and have a son, Tyler Gentry Stafford, with. But marriage just didn't seem to stick with Bobbie, and the pair were divorced just 2 years later in 1980. By 1981, Bobbie walked out of Vegas the same way she left her life as a recording artist behind. Fans have speculated that she realized there were things she wanted to do with her life beyond just trying to write a new hit song, or trying to come up with a new costume for a show, new dance routines, and new ways of escaping some of her more obsessive fans. Just like when she exited the recording business, Bobbie left Vegas on her own terms, and only after accomplishing all of her goals by bringing her unique visions to life. Before Bobbie all but vanished from the public eye, she made a last couple of appearances fans can remember her by. She was a guest on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson on Christmas Day in 1978, a real gift for Bobbie fans. She also attended the Best of Vegas Awards on March 21, 1980. And in 1981, she was one of several guests who were a part of an all-star salute to Mother's Day. Bobbie dazzled fans with a performance of Mama, a Rainbow from the musical Minnie's Boys. Bobbie was performing for her mother, who was seated in the front row. It would be her final public performance in her entire career. And the last time Bobbie made a public appearance was at the Academy of Country Music Awards on April 30th, 1982. Bobbie was 40 years old at the time. Since then, she hasn't recorded music, performed any live shows, or even been interviewed. She's notoriously elusive and seems to really value her privacy since she guards it so seriously. As a matter of fact, there wasn't even any news about Bobbie all the way until 2016. That's when the Washington Post ran an investigation and discovered she was living in a gated community just outside of Memphis, Tennessee. It's believed she lives roughly 2 hours from the Tallahatchie Bridge, which features prominently in the song that made her famous. And it seems like music did right by her in the end, since her home is rumored to be worth roughly $1.5 million. But nobody knows for sure, and only her neighbors and some real estate agents know if Bobbie really lives there, because apparently she severed ties with many friends and family members decades earlier. Fans have heralded Bobbie as a pioneer, responsible for fusing together country, soul, pop, funk, folk, and jazz into a beautiful mix of styles that somehow was unique with its own identity. But not everyone at the time was so generous, and you can understand why she felt like she didn't need the negativity that comes with putting yourself out there for public consumption, especially when you're trying to grow and evolve. In 1974, one writer questioned Bobbie's stance as a feminist, since she had previously made a big deal about her very traditional feminine appearance with tight dresses and teased hair. Bobbie fired back that she was a woman working for herself in a man's industry and had struggled immensely to be able to comfortably wear those dresses and put her hair up. Bobbie said that when you're a pretty woman, people automatically think that means you're not smart, which makes it even harder to convince them you are. Considering there were 0 female music executives or producers while she was at the peak of making music, that must have been even more difficult. So when you think about the pressure she was under early on, as well as the criticism she just got for existing, it's not exactly surprising that she decided to remove herself from the spotlight, especially considering her obsessive fans. All it takes is one crazy fan saying they're going to find where you live to make you permanently reconsider making that information public ever again, especially when you have a kid to protect. Bobbie completely changed everyone's concept of what it means to be a successful woman in popular music, and she redefined what success means because no one had ever walked away from it like she had before. She stayed in the spotlight for as long as it suited her and walked away as soon as she was over it. She's a hero for working class women in music, as well as the entertainment industry as a whole, and an inspiration to anyone trying to tell their story. I hope wherever she is, she's enjoying her peace and quiet, and that her neighbors can keep a secret and know how not to talk to reporters. But what do you guys think? Should Bobbie have really been worried about her fans? Did she make the right choice by walking away from the spotlight? What's your favorite Bobbie Gentry song? Let me know in the comments below.